In this lesson we're going to be learning about partitioning areas, lengths and collections to create fractions of halves, quarters, thirds and fifths. Okay, so what does partitioning mean? Partitioning means to divide into parts. So when we talk about an area is the surface of the space of something. So here's a circle and I'm colouring in the space of the circle or the surface. So when I'm partitioning an area, I'm dividing the area into parts. Lengths are the distance from end to end. So for example, a running race, the distance from the start to the finish line, I would be partitioning a length by dividing it into parts, the length into parts. Collections are a group of things. So for example, a group of marbles. Okay, so I would be partitioning a collection, I'd be dividing it into parts. So let's look at each fraction and we're going to talk about partitioning for each of those fractions. Okay, first up we're going to look at partitioning areas, length and collections to create halves. Here's our little symbol to remind us all about halves. In one whole there are two equal parts, and there's the word half, and here's the fraction 1/2. So let's look at area first. We've got this lovely lemon slice here, and we're going to partition the area of the lemon into halves. So I'm going to sneakily divide it using this special divider, and there you go. I have successfully partitioned the lemon into halves. There are two equal parts that make up that whole lemon. Let's have a look at area now. Oh, not area, sorry, length. So here we go. We'll pretend this is our running track. So here's our start line and our finish line, and that's the distance that you have to run. And with our length, we're going to partition length to create the fraction of halves. So I have my special little pointer here. So I'm going to partition it to show halves. So remembering halves are two equal parts and that make up the whole. So with the whole running track here, I have partitioned it in half to create two equal parts in that running track. Let's look now at collections. Here's a collection of stamps. Now when we talk about a collection, we talk about one whole collection. So even though I've got 6 separate stamps, I'm still talking about one whole collection. And we're going to partition that collection to create halves. So I'm simply going to, there we go, just draw a line down the middle. And I've successfully partitioned my collection into halves. I have 1, 2, 3 stamps on this side, 1, 2, 3 stamps on the other side. So I've got an even collection, even group within my collection of stamps. Okay, we're going to look at partitioning areas, lengths and collections to create fractions of quarters. So here's my little quarter reminder. So I've got a whole circle here, and the circle has been divided into quarters. So within one whole circle there are 4 quarters, and here is the wording 1/4 and the numeric fraction 1/4. So first of all we're going to look at this delicious slice of tomato, and we're going to partition the area of that tomato to create quarters. I'm just going to carefully cut it down the centre and cut it across again. So I have successfully partitioned the area of that tomato to create quarters. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts that make up that whole slice of tomato. Let's look at partitioning length. So we've got our racetrack again, start line, the race, and the finish line. So we're going to partition this length into quarters, which means 4 equal parts. So I've got my little divider sticks here again. I'm going to make sure I position them so I've got 4 equal parts on the running line. It's not that easy. There we go. It's not too bad. So I have partitioned the running line into quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Okay, let's look at collections. This time I've got a collection of buttons, some lovely bright yellow buttons. Now with collections, remember, we're talking about the whole collection. So I want to partition this whole collection into quarters. Okay, so with my pen I'm going to partition this collection of buttons. And I want to make sure I have 4 groups. Okay, and you can see that I've got an equal amount of buttons in each group. So I have 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have in each group I have 1, 2, 3. So I have successfully partitioned my whole collection into 4 equal groups. Okay, partitioning areas, length and collections to create thirds. Again, I've got my little reminder here about thirds. I've got my whole circle and I have created thirds by evenly dividing the shape into 3 equal parts. 1, 2, 3. Here is the words 1/3 and here's the numeric form of the fraction 1/3. So let's have a look at partitioning areas to create thirds. We have this lovely slice of apple here. So we're going to partition the area of this apple to create thirds. Got my pen. Just going to carefully partition to create thirds. So there's my whole piece of apple and I have created or partitioned the surface of the apple, the area, into 3 equal parts, which means I have partitioned into thirds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to look at partitioning the length of the racetrack again. So I'm going to use my divider sticks again. So I want to partition the length to create thirds, which means 3 equal parts. And there you go. I have partitioned the length of the racetrack into 1, 2, 3 equal parts. Here's my collection of shells. Aren't they beautiful? And remembering again that I've got one whole collection of shells here and I want to partition that to create thirds. So I'm going to group them this time to 3 equal groups. Okay, so I have successfully partitioned my group of shells into thirds, 3 equal groups. 1, 2, 3. And there's 2 shells in each of those groups. Okay, up to our last fraction. We're looking at fifths, and here's our symbol again to remind us all about fifths. So within this one whole circle, I have created fifths by creating 5 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and we've got the word 1/5, and here's the fraction 1/5. That's indicating that one of these little slices here is 1/5 of this whole shape. Okay, within the whole shape there are actually 5 fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to partition the area of this pizza here to create fifths. And I've actually been a bit tricky in this one, and I've actually already done it because it's not easy to create fifths. So I'll just get rid of that pizza. So if you have a look at this pizza, I have very carefully partitioned the pizza to create fifths. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Alright, let's look at lengths. So we've got our the length of the running race, and we're going to partition the length of the race to create fifths. So I've got my little dividers again. I'm going to evenly place them on the running line to create 5 equal parts. So I'm going to check that. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts. So I've partitioned the length of that race to create fifths, 5 equal parts. Alright, we've got a collection here of some great Matchbox cars. Remembering, a collection is considered to be one whole collection. Okay, so I want to partition my collection to create fifths, to show the fraction fifths. Okay, so I'm going to get my pen again, and I'm going to carefully create fifths. So I'm going to separate them into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 even groups, even because they have 2 cars in each. 1, 2 cars. Okay, so that whole collection of cars I have partitioned to create fifths. Okay, hopefully you have a good understanding about partitioning areas, lengths and collections to create halves, quarters, thirds and fifths. So I've got a little matching game here to see how you've gone. So I've got the word of the fractions such as halves, fifths, quarters and thirds, and I've got I have partitioned collections, areas and lengths, and we're going to see if we can match them up. Alright, let's have a look here at my collection of buttons, my whole collection. So I can see that it has been partitioned into 2 equal groups. So that tells me, is it halves? Yes, it is. It has been partitioned into halves. So we'll put those 2 together. Let's have a look over here at my lovely circle. And the circle has been partitioned into 3 equal parts. So that's the area of the circle. So that tells me that 3 equal parts, alright, that's thirds. Okay, how are you going? Hopefully you did well with those 2. Alright, next I've got a lovely collection of some beautiful beetles here. So my whole collection of beetles has been partitioned into 4 equal groups, and that tells me that they have been partitioned into quarters. Okay, I've got my lovely pizza here, and the pizza has, the area of this pizza has been partitioned into, what do you think? If you said fifths, you are correct. Alright, my number lines. So my number lines here are representing length. So the length of this number line, it has been divided or partitioned into 3 equal parts. I can see that. Let's test it out. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to say 3 equal parts. Alright, that tells me it has been partitioned into thirds. And my last number line, okay, this number line here, it has been, the length of this number line has been partitioned into 2 equal parts. 1, 2. So that tells me that it has been partitioned to create the fraction of halves. Cowabunga, dude. Keep on riding the fractions wave.